And we are live in the Livin Loud with Andy Kicker Studio. Appreciate you guys tuning in. This is Kicking It with Andy, actually Kicking It with John Myers. So make sure you guys hang out, enter the giveaway at kicker.com/umweekly. And without further ado, let's kick off this intro and talk about sound quality. I'll see you guys in 3 minutes.
So we're kicking it with Andy, right? You know what that means. We living loud.
Love you guys. Appreciate you tuning in. Of course, we got John Myers again. We love John. I got a lot of friends named John. It's a good thing. All Johns are great. What's going on, Brett? See you guys in a minute. You know that, William? You just gotta look at it. That's all you can do. I appreciate you always tuning in. Audio Dad, what's up? Thank you guys for hanging out. It's Tuesday. Not the Unmasked show, but the next best thing. Kicking It with Andy. We got the kicker prizes, the Bullfrog 100, the TW1s and the EB400s, and of course, the bonus 50% off discount code. Anything at kicker.com. Make sure you guys enter kicker.com/umweekly every Tuesday. Appreciate you guys always hanging out with me. Chris, what's up? We're going to do a little bit of housekeeping, and then we're going to bring on John. I mean, they do it on the Unmasked show. They talk a little bit, they look at it, and then they bring on the guests, and they go about 90 minutes-ish, give or take. So, get your popcorn, your favorite beverage. Tonight is going to be a blast. If you like sound quality or just any kind of system to sound good and you want it to sound better, you might want to hang out for this one. Thank you for tuning in, BT. Andy, you have mail with pictures. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate you. You got mail. I love it. You know, I don't know about you, but if I wake up and I got a package from anyone, got a smile on my face. Something about it. I don't know what it is. Appreciate you, Brian. Thank you so much. And you guys will all be getting something soon from Livin Loud Any Day. That all will be shipped out before we go down to Myrtle Beach. Appreciate you guys. What's going on, Dusty? Thanks for hanging out. Excuse me. Man, we had some good pizza for dinner today. I had pizza at Chuck E. Cheese on Sunday, pizza for dinner on Friday at Chuck E. Cheese. I am all pizzaed out, but I can have some tomorrow. That's my favorite food. I appreciate you guys. What did you have for dinner tonight? Something good? What's going on? Mike, what is up? Hope you're doing well, sir. Team Green engaged, and we already got a $5 super chat. Sorry, it's all switched up because we got a guest, but I'm ready.
Well, would you look at that? Oh my gosh, just look at it. Just look at it. You got to look at it this way, okay? You just got to look at it. That's all you can do anymore.
You do just gotta look at it, Jay. Thank you. Hey, buddy, I'm packing for the road trip, leaving in 3 hours. Going to visit my lady in PC, Florida, and attend my grandmother's funeral Friday. Well, sir, please drive safe. And my condolences to you and your family. And thank you for supporting and being here regardless. Have a safe and fun drive and bass out on the way. I know you will. That's the best thing about driving and you're a bass head. You got some kind of system. You know what I mean? You're listening to music for at least 60% of the time. Yeah, I had to do the same thing, you know, get ready for packing up. And a quad box with 4 suitcases or more, I don't care how big your car is. So I had to downsize to the down-firing kicker comp they have. And let me tell you, it's just enough and it sounds good. It really does. Thank you. Appreciate you, Jay. Let's see. We got off work. Thanks for tuning in, Jose. Ye just got off work. What's up? Waka, waka, waka. Appreciate you, man. And glad you're here. I will need that, Adam. Thank you, man. That will be awesome. I seen Bobby Gately got one, and I'm like, oh, would you look at that? I want one of those Brody Man t-shirts signed. Thank you, sir. You got me on all social medias, but if you want to get a hold of me, livinloudwithandy.com, in Gmail, either one will take you to me. That's how you contact me. Appreciate you guys. Anson, what's up? This was the guy that won the 5,000 subscriber giveaway from Kicker. And man, that system is rocking to this day in his Jeep, and he still tunes in now. Would you look at that? SQ is why I run linear power amps and Kicker components in my Trans Am. And you did send me those photos. I remember looking at them, and those just linear power amplifiers are just old school as old school can get. And quality, man. And just because, you know, Kicker makes everything doesn't mean you have to match it with it all. It is a little bit easier and might sound pretty good and just look better because everything's matching. But that's not always the case, man. You can always mix match subs and amplifiers and you'll get the point approved. Appreciate you, Anson. Approved. Listen to me. You've been getting too many spam mails about loans. No more loans for me. I'm good. All right, let's see. We're going to bring John on in a second here. Any last saying hello, Andy? What's going on? Scott, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you guys. No, thank you for your time, sir. I appreciate you guys always tuning in here. Tuesday, Friday, what have you. I appreciate you. Quad box would stay. Luggage goes on the roof rack. You know, yeah, I thought about it, but I don't know. Plus, I like trying something different, and if it rains, I mean, you can do all that stuff. Trust me, I thought about it. I was already looking at a trailer hitch, you know, little luggage things. I'm like, nah, I'll just take the quad box out, I'll bite the bullet, and it still sounds good. And we're going to be talking about that with John Myers here. And without further ado, you know what, I'm going to bring him up, but we got a little something here for him. John Myers been a kicker for 27 years, 27, 28, 29, around there, forever. John Myers, let's introduce him. What is going on?
Hey,
hold on.
Hey, everybody out there. Good to be here.
Thanks for hanging out with me, man. And sorry, the background music. I had to do a little something there for you, you know. John, he's the guy. Absolutely, man. Now, with you and Kicker, and I feel like, you know, I seen that one comment, and I feel like anything can sound good if it's done right. And obviously there's limitations for brand and what have you, but it really does come down to the user.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I want to state, you know, early on in this show, is that everyone has their own ideas what sound quality is. There is no right or wrong. There's no one brand's better than the other one. As you say, you know, you put the right stuff in the right way, it's going to sound great. You put the best stuff in the wrong way, it may not sound so good. But everyone has their own opinions. All we're going to do tonight is give you some, you know, ideas and, you know, encourage people to experiment with, you know, what they want to try and to see how it works for them. But there is no right or wrong. We'll just give you the basics and I'll give you my opinions. And remember, these are only opinions. You know, if I get asked certain questions, I'll tell you this is my opinion, but you know, you might have a different idea. And that's great. That's why there's so many different brands, so many different styles and sizes of speakers, so many different places to put speakers. It makes car audio fun. It should never be boring. It should never be cookie cutter every time. No offense to Cookie Monster, but it's something you just got to experiment with and play with, and everyone has their own idea. I mean, I set in some vehicles that people have absolutely raved about for sound quality, and I'm like, you know, I've set other vehicles that, you know, someone that didn't know anything about sound quality, it's like, man, this sounds really pretty good, and with no tuning. So it's all personal choice, and sometimes it just works out.
Absolutely. And I like how you just hit almost every bulletin on my just little cheat sheet here. And that's the thing that covers it all, is opinion, where sound quality can be almost objective in some way, you know, because some guy might just like a little bit more distortion. People get used to distortion, and it could be from the bottom end to the top end of the stereo. And
you know, like boxes, there's sealed, there's ported, there's infinite baffle. People just like their own particular sound for their taste in music. And I love it when people ask, you know, what is the best speaker to buy? It'd be like going up to a car dealer and say, what's the best color of Honda to buy? Well, what color do you like, you idiot? You know, that's what's best for you. So,
well, I thought silver was the best color, but you know what? That's an opinion.
It all depends on where you're at too, because in Oklahoma, white is king because of the heat.
Oh, I mean, I do got a few white cars too, so yeah.
I remember driving past a gas station. Out of 14 cars, 12 of them were white pickups. It was crazy.
I know. So, whenever I'm in traffic, I mean, you get used to that. You see the same car all the time, and then you start seeing it everywhere because you drive it now. But with the colors, it's like you will see a lot of white SUVs parking up beside each other, and it's just like, wow. So this color is pretty popular. Yeah. Other than my paint job peeling off because it was a recall, I love the white cars, and they do work. White and black, you got your pros and cons, and just like sound quality, you're going to have your pros and cons with just everything. That of trying to make it sound the best it can. You could still even be giving up something maybe on just how loud it is too, because I've ran into that.
Or how loud it's perceived. You know, people used to think it really had to hurt your ears to be loud. And that's not necessarily true. It can sound really good and still be really loud. But real quickly, before I forget, there's a couple of comments I want to address if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Jason, WW2000 was asking, you know, with the PXA 200.1, it was rated at half an ohm. It was basically designed to be a very, very efficient little amplifier, and to get 200 watts out of it, you had to drop it down to half an ohm to get that type of power. So that is legitimate. It really did about 200 watts of power, and there's a video that I did where I hooked up 8 of our dual 12-inch box, well, 4 of our dual 12-inch boxes, 8 woofers all together, and that little amp did over 130 dB. You know, in a room, not in a
still right. That's different. Yeah.
So pretty impressive little amplifier. Now, do I recommend, you know, quarter an ohm? Not necessarily. You don't have the control. But the other comment that I saw was kind of interesting, and that was the comment that I think it was Mark that pointed out that, you know, hey, we got rid of our Q class and our IQ amplifiers, and we did not get rid of them. That decision was made for us. So normally when we're developing products, we design a product and we build all the tooling to make all the product. And that takes quite a bit of time to actually make the tooling that makes individual piece. If you saw the episode I did where we went over just even the L7T basket, there's 11 different tools just to make that one basket. So
Nuts.
the company during COVID that was making these products for us with our tools, we design them. We just don't own the factory that assembles them. They basically came to us and said, "Oh, by the way, this order that you just put it in, it's your last one." So
Wow.
kind of
Gut
caught us
shot.
with our pants down. So we do have products that we're working on that will, basically replace those, but it left a gap, and I do apologize. I mean, it is kind of a, bit of a bruise on the ego when, your top of the line products seem to disappear. But the Q class subs, the comp Qs, I've seen the new ones. I've heard them. I think some of them are starting at the warehouse as we speak. You're going to be very impressed with those. If you like the ones before, you're really going to like the new versions. They look great and they sound killer, and they even handle more power, more output than the previous versions.
Now, I don't want to drop too many winks here because I know you guys like to surprise everybody. But with the new Qs, are they going to be looking much different cosmetically, or is it going to be
very similar?
Okay,
a little bit. I shouldn't say sinister, but they're going to be rather than like a pewter color cone, they'll be more of a matte black.
okay, so almost in line with the newer versions of like the 50s you guys been making, kind of thing, just a little bit darker.
Course,
I like that.
The blue silk screening, the blue stitching, and of course now they'll have the forced air cooling in the back for the better durability. But they are coming; they're on the way. It's just we can only make so many of certain products at a time, and you want to keep the guys happy with the products that you're selling the most of. And when you get time, you go ahead and start doing this. But they're coming, definitely coming.
And I feel like that was a good way or good thing to bring up, just because we're talking about sound quality, and that is the top tier of kicker. I mean, other than the L7X that just came out, power wise, I mean, it's got Q in the name, sound quality. I think that had something to do with it. And that's cool to hear that you guys are coming back with that, because I know a lot of people were upset about that. It was just gone, and you guys kind of got blindsided.
I was not a happy camper, and still not, because every one of my vehicles has Q class L7s and IQ amplifiers. Jay made a little comment here. I just saw this, and isn't that like $40,000 a tool, a product? The Solo X12. We had $500,000 in tooling in that before a single one went for sale. In fact, it's on its 29th revision. So we made 29 versions of that woofer, over $500,000 in tooling before we shipped woofer 1. And if you get one vendor in the middle of all that, which is what happened on that woofer, the vendor that was making the spiders decided to close their doors during COVID. So we had to start all over with a new vendor with new tools, and that further added to the delay. So that's part of the problem when you do the research and design and development we do, is you're at mercy to things like that, versus if you're just a part shopper, you're out of that surround. Well, let's go buy this one and put that one in. We don't do that.
Right. You can't just interchange stuff, especially whenever, you're really designing a speaker to be balanced. And, in the way that you have it, you change one thing, you're changing four, man, and that's terrible. I never heard that side of the story of, distributors or whatever, the manufacturers over there that are putting things together for you guys after you guys are tooling them and making them the way you guys want. Obviously, China does put these things together, and they're sitting there sewing the spiders together. Everything is from over there.
Sewn.
Yeah.
And 25 hertz till I've asked, have we ever produced a white subwoofer? No, but we do silver as we speak, but we never did a white cone, but we have done white baskets.
Right. Maybe for the Marine
baskets. Yes.
Yeah. And I was going to say the Marine KM is probably the most white you're going to get. That's like a light silver, the KM 10 and that's a pretty cool one too, because that's almost designed. Well, there's two versions of it, but one is designed for like infinite baffle, and
that's the KMF. F for
KMF, free air. And that's cool too, because like when we're talking about sound quality, the number one thing you hear is infinite baffle, and
I've said that forever. That's one of my favorite trivia questions. I'll get in front of, a group of my trainees and ask people what's, in their opinion, obviously, everyone has their own likes, but, technically what is the best sounding enclosure? And the answer really is no enclosure. So it's kind of a trick question.
And that's the thing, and that's what the infinite baffle is. There's no enclosure, and I know you could probably put more into it with detail, but it's almost like, whenever you have an enclosure, you're trying to build pressure inside, not pressure per se, but it's just how the wave couples with the speaker and the enclosure and how physics works. And when you eliminate that, it helps you have a more flatter curve, I guess. There's no real bump.
What happens with an infinite baffle, there's nothing to change the response of the speaker, nothing artificial. Whereas, a sealed enclosure, a ported enclosure, they're going to change the way the speaker sounds. So, and anytime you change something from its natural form, that, technically, if you're looking at sound especially, that's considered distortion. So, if it changes at all from input to output, whether it's light, sound, anything, technically it's distortion. It's altering the original form of whatever it is you have. And
see, I never thought of that.
Bad. I mean, no. But with an infinite baffle, you get better sound quality, but you lose power handling and you lose output. So there's always trade-offs. There's no magic bullet, as I like to say.
Bingo, trade-offs. That's my favorite thing. Is because with this stuff, anytime you take from something, you got to give back somewhere else. There's no such thing as just, you're going to be loud and it's going to be sounding good to that point of a sound quality vehicle. And we want our builds to sound good. Don't get me wrong. But when you're talking real sound quality as a competitor, that's a whole nother field. And that's the same thing that goes for, man, I'm the loudest guy in the street, and you go walk into an SPL lane at Worlds, you are not a loud guy. You're not the most efficient. And it goes both ways. Yes, it really is. I should say. Ear opener. I like that one. John-uisms. I like them. Got a lot of them. Yes. But yeah, starting with the infinite baffles, like how we've been talking about it, and sound quality, and I know we're kind of skipping ahead of this, but that really does come to mind first whenever you're building a setup. Everybody's gonna want to have matching components, coaxials, whatever their deal is, and stage and all that fun stuff. But I feel like majority of the consumer base is gonna be like, man, I want to put a subwoofer in my car, and then I want it to sound good. They think subwoofer first, and then everything rest, afterwards.
And we like those people, because what do we sell? Amps and subwoofers. Sell a lot.
Yes. Hey, that's how I was, and I feel like anybody that's, I turned out to be Livin Loud with Andy, but I feel like a lot of people, they just kind of do want their music to sound a little bit louder. And also, whenever they do that, they're like, man, I need more power. I need more this. And then it depends how far you get into that, just how much you're spending and how involved you want to get. Thank you, Wade, for sending 200 stars on Facebook. I appreciate you. I don't know what that would be equivalent to, is that a word? To dollars, but we'll just throw some pennies. I think that's some pennies there.
I got pennies.
Thank you, Wade. I appreciate you. I know you know Wade. He was at Slamology hanging out with us. He always comes out to Slam, and he works at a kicker dealer, like selling stuff. And he's I think out in Ohio, out in Lima. So he's good. He's good people, and always. Yeah, I know. It feels like a lot of you guys come out from that way. At least it seems like.
I was spawned from Nebraska originally, so.
Wow, Cornhusker. Nice. And that's the thing. It's like with what we do, it's like you see that everybody in the entire world does this stuff, and it's crazy how bigger the picture truly is, other than being the loudest on your block. But just meeting from everybody from everywhere, just all over the world. It's truly just amazing in that aspect of there's so many other people doing this stuff. Like we got 60 people here tonight, and there's probably 360 more that would want to tune in and love this stuff. And that's what we do. So I appreciate you, John, for doing the Unmatched show, and Kicker doing all that stuff, and you guys tuning in. You guys are awesome.
It's great to have support, and it's fun when it's something you're passionate about. You actually call it a career too. So you never work a day when you love what you do. And
yeah,
it's definitely been a blast, literally.
Truly, we're blessed and lucky. Go with that. All right, cool. So let's start off with the beginning of sound quality. And obviously it's to sound good, but there's more than that, of just that whole realm. And what I want to start off with is where your music starts. Honestly, yes, it could be your tracks, what you're listening to, but not even that so much. It's just your source, your radio, your head unit. And maybe you can go more into this as well, John, with just having noise before you even start to make noise.
Yeah, that's never any fun. I mean, engine noise, I've been literally battling with engine noise since the beginning of my audio career. It's one of those areas that used to be very common, and it used to be very difficult to figure out and very difficult to cure. I mean, I've spent 12 hours on one vehicle just trying to get rid of noise. I mean, back before the technology's really made it to the point where it's not as big of an issue anymore if you do things the right way. Now, there's several different ways you can get noise. You can get ground loop noise, which we're all familiar with. If your ground potential in your amplifier is different than the radio or another amp, you can have injected noise. It can come in through an antenna.
Wow.
You can have injected noise with old cassette decks, that used a magnetic pickup head. If you had a wire harness that ran across the top of the radio, like the old Bronco 2s and the SL Mercedes, when you played your cassette, you would have noise, but you wouldn't have it on the radio. So that was actually injected into the cassette head. You get another type of antenna noise with multiple RCA cables, where they can actually reflect the noise between the shieldings, the ground on the RCAs, and it will pick up noise like an FM antenna. You've heard that term, a dipole antenna, which means two, which is where you get the two wires that come up and branch out. That's an FM antenna. That's better than the single wire. But if you take two separate RCA cables, the noise will actually reflect between the shielding on those two RCA cables, and it will make noise. And that's why they came up with something called directional RCAs, where
that's different than balanced.
Yep, you had a ground lug or a lead that had a ground terminal on it that you would ground or not ground depending on which direction it was put in. And the key with those RCAs, you want to have the ungrounded portion at the amplifier. So that broke that whole ground loop at the amplifier, because if it was ungrounded at the head unit, it still has the full length of the RCAs to pick up that noise.
That's crazy, because anything it's electronical, you're going to have an interference just because of electromagnetism and just all
EMI
that fun
and
stuff.
EMF, electromagnetic interference.
Wow.
So the way you can tell if you have that problem, and you only have that problem with multi-channel amplifiers, like a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 channel amplifier. If you have one pair of RCAs plugged in and you have zero noise, if you plug in, doesn't matter the left or the right, you plug in one more RCA into the amplifier and you instantly get noise. That's where you get that antenna effect. It's using the shields on the RCAs. Now, to combat that, people were putting the ground loop isolator in the amplifier, which would break.
Right. And those don't work great either way.
They kill the sound quality. They really, really reduce the quality of sound, but they fix the noise. So people would suffer with poor sound quality and not have the whine versus the whine and have better sound quality. And that's where the advantage of the RCAs that, have that separate shield for ground is, you're not grounding them. If you think about a conventional head unit, I'm talking aftermarket now, with the RCA outputs, they have something called a single-ended output. That's where all the RCA shields are tied together, and they're also tied to the chassis of the radio. So if you take an ohm meter and measure between any of the RCA shields, it's a dead short. Measure from the shield to the chassis of the radio, it's a dead short. Then measure that to the black wire on the head unit, which is the ground, that's a dead short. So what you're essentially doing is tying all your audio to the chassis ground of the vehicle. So when you're running with RCA cables, if you think about it, you got a 4-channel RCA, you have 4 signal leads, and with most RCAs, you've got grounds reached, so you got 4 shields. You only need 1, because remember, they're all grounded together at the head unit on the RCA. So you can literally, and this is what we used to do with the old Kicker show vehicles, we would take 5 strands of, 18, 20, 24 gauge wire, twist them together. We had 4 signal wire and 1 ground. So you had 3 RCAs that just had 1 wire going to them. And one of the RCAs had the ground as well. and never had any noise whatsoever because we've
For the people in
isolated.
the back, I hear a little bit of an echo. Do you have your headphones in still? Maybe it's gone now. It's gone now.
Not me.
That's weird. Okay, cool. Anyway, for the people in the back, you heard that word come up a lot as the ground, and that's that ground potential difference of just sound or power coming through and from the AC ripple. And I did talk about that a little bit on the last Tuesday show, and that's why I thought between that and everything else going on, this is a good way to go right back into this. And, it's crazy the little trinkets ways of trying different stuff. And I seen that demonstration that you were talking about, the RCA, grounding that RCA for that back to front in that book. I remember reading over that. I'm like, that sounds so familiar. And that's from the book. And little tricks to do that to help eliminate that potential difference of the grounds and stuff, or just wherever the electrical field is coming through your car. There's so much going on. But right, with the, what are those, ground loop isolators, I've tried them, and yes, they kill the sound output. They make it just not good. It does help get rid of the noise. It does get rid of that, but there's a bigger problem. It's putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg. It's not really
and it's not
fixing
even a good
anything.
Band-Aid.
No. It's a bad one. It's a bad one for sure. I've seen even people put wire around the RCA ground on the back of their head unit, and who knows?
That's scary. So what they're doing there, and I remember seeing this post in a South African, audio forum. Like they had, if you want to get, better sound quality, do this to your head unit. And they showed copper wire just looped between all the RCA shields and then screwed to the radio. Now, the reason that this was popular, and I'm not picking on any brands. I mean, just so you guys are aware of it, in the 90s, Pioneer, what they did was, here's the problem with the single-ended inputs. Most single-ended input amplifiers are the same way. So all the RCA shields are tied together. All the RCA shields are then tied to the chassis of the amplifier to power supply ground. So if you disconnect the ground wire from your power amplifier and it doesn't have ground loss isolation, it's now going to try to ground the power supply the only place that's left, and that is through the RCA cable going back up to the head unit. And so what they were trying to do was to eliminate people burning up head units when they lose. You bolt your amplifier to your speaker box and you go around a quarter fast, the box slides and rips the ground wire out. Well, then your head unit erupts into flames. And that's because the amplifier was trying to ground through the RCA. So they fused those RCA shields inside the head unit. So
I don't think that's big enough gauge wire for any kind of amplifier.
No, it's not at all. Not when you're talking 24 gauge or sometimes less. And the traces on the circuit board were incredibly small. So they were trying to protect the head units against that from happening. The problem was if you connected the power wire and had the RCAs connected first before you grounded the amplifier, you would blow those fuses in the signal. So now you had an ungrounded signal. If you guys have ever heard it, you get a lot of noise, you get a lot of just rumble, and you can hear, like if you had a CD player, you hear the CD tracking noise, you hear the motor spinning up, and you hear it tracking to get rid of that, you grounded the shields to basically replace that ground that the fuses, eliminated. Yeah. But it's no way to improve the sound quality. The best way to improve sound quality, there are two ways. One, do not run your signal tied to chassis ground. And the second one is run as high a voltage into the amplifier that you can run into it cleanly with the gain turned down as far as possible. Those are the two biggest things in sound quality, is no chance for noise and higher voltage. And the reason the higher voltage is important, an amplifier is designed to amplify voltage. So 25 watts out of any radio, whether it's home radio, factory, or aftermarket, 25 watts is equivalent to 10 volts at 4 ohms. So most amplifiers could only accept 1 or 2 volts years ago. So the ground, problem was that you couldn't run speaker level into a single-ended input amplifier because it grounded the speaker wires to ground, which if you're doing speaker wires, that basically puts the amplifier into protection or shuts it down completely. If it's RCA, then you've tied your signal to chassis ground. And then you took that 10 volt signal, you dropped it down to a 1 volt signal, and now you ask your amplifier to amplify that 10 more times So you get more noise, more distortion, and the amplifier is working harder for the exact same output.
And that's exactly it. They are amplifying, and what do you want your common denominator to be? A little bit higher or lower, because then you're going to have to do more. And whatever sound you do have, because I feel like you can't entirely get rid of any kind of just static noise in the system.
It's going to be there. And
right.
One of the real problems you have with really high efficiency speakers, and that's been very popular lately with the pro audio drivers that people are using, 108 dB sensitivity.
Right.
Any system noise with something that's that efficient, you're going to hear it. And when we had the waveguides that were the speakers that mounted under the dash that were ultra efficient, and you had equipment that was, it was good equipment, but maybe had a little higher noise floor, they had to have a way to eliminate that noise that you would hear in between songs. So that's when they came out with something called a noise gate. So the noise basically had to be above a certain level for it to pass through to the amplifier. So if it went below that, it would completely mute the output if you didn't have the noise. But a poorly set up noise gate, you're going to hear it turn on and off. It's going to be very annoying.
Wow. So that's how they got around from their noisy amplifiers. So it wouldn't be noisy by just adding a noise gate. So you either got no sound or sound enough. But right, there are some quieter parts in songs. You might hear that turn on, turn off pop. That's something I want to talk about too, is that turn on, turn off pop. Whenever I try to wire something, just jerry rigged together, you get that pop, and it's like, do I need to add a relay and this and that stuff? And I feel like that's not really sound quality, but it is something to think about whenever, you have just your stereo. You want it to sound good from startup to shut off.
Now, what that turn on, turn off pop is, an amplifier has a positive rail and a negative rail. So it's got a push motion and a pull motion. So positive motion, negative motion. So you have to charge these rails up to either, 15, 20, 25, 30 volts, whatever it happens to be. So if the amplifier turns on and the voltage rails are matched, you got plus 30 and minus 30, you will have no turn off or turn on pop. But if you've got one rail that's a different voltage than the other one, so you got, plus 25 and minus 30, there's a 5-volt difference in the rails. When it turns on, there's going to be a pop because it's trying to equalize itself.
Wow. So it's the unequal voltage on the capacitor or rail side? You said rail side. Wow. And that's what's making the sound for your amplifier.
Yeah.
So
and sometimes it can be your head unit is shutting off with that problem before the amplifier does. So the amplifier, the head unit shuts down and then it shuts off the remote output. So the amplifier is going to see that basically as music and it's going to amplify it. So the best way to test if it's the amplifier or something else is while the system's powered up, just pull off the remote turn on lead. If you don't get
see
any
if it makes
pop,
it pop.
It's great. If you connect it and you don't get any pop, it's not the amplifier. It's coming into the amplifier.
Wow. So coming in from the source, aka your RCAs, your high level. I know I deal with that with the Pilot. But the Pilot's got that stock head unit and key, and it's just, it's like, all right, let me just see if I can tap into the stock amplifier. So the stock amplifier turns on when this one turns on, and that should really, fix the problem. But whenever I first put it together, it's like, the BassKnob got a remote turn on. I'll turn that on, and I deal with it, I mean, a quad box, a little pop here and there is not too bad. But, right. Right.
One of the other problems with just, system noise and engine noise in general is if you've, especially in like today's cars where you can't replace the head unit or the amplifiers, they're part of the electrical circuit of the vehicle. So you're just going to grab the signal coming out. You're grabbing an already amplified signal in a lot of cases, speaker level or, from an amplifier. And if you then feed that signal into another amplifier that's going to amplify it again, you're basically double amping the noise. So it's very important that you have a very clean source to start with, because amplifiers are, they're like computers, garbage in, garbage out. So you send it noise, it's going to make more noise. That's just
bunch of pixels, just pixels coming out the rear end.
Good
right.
Example,
I know when
real quick, a good example, like the 2019 F-150 with the B&O system.
Okay.
It says it's a, one of their high-end systems, but we measured, 125 millivolts of noise coming out of that amplifier. Now, to give you an example, 125 millivolts, or about an eighth of a volt,
I was gonna say
our
0.1, yeah.
amplifiers with 150 millivolt, minimum input, you can almost get the amplifier to clipping with just the noise coming out of that stock amplifier.
That's terrible.
So
That's
if you gain all the
terrible.
way up, I mean, it would be almost noise at clipping level. So that's why those vehicles, you have to take that amplifier out. You have to get an interface and go around it.
Wow. I know when I did mine, I skipped the amplifier. I went right to the head unit pre-amplifier of the stock one for everything that I was going to amplify. And then I still wind up, keeping the stock amplifier for other things. So there's a lot going on in that car because I wanted to keep, a lot of things without putting all the money into, just the whole integration of like head unit and just the whole nine. Like you're saying with the Ford, there's a little bit more integration that you need to do. But that's what's cool about you guys. You guys have so many products that do integrate with that kind of stuff. And of course, there's Mastro kits and other things and T harnesses and whatever have you to do what you want to do if you want to do more. But right, absolutely. There was a few questions here that I highlighted. Matthew, thank you for the $2 super chat. Appreciate you.
Question.
That is, yeah. I mean, I guess just pennies, just pennies. Brett, hey John, can you answer if Kicker will be coming out new Q series mid-range and tweeter speakers?
I cannot tell. But
Cannot confirm
we're always
nor
working
deny.
on something, and
Yeah.
we've always
That's it.
had pretty much at least 3 lines of products, and just hang on.
Yeah, that's it. And those are still available. The QS series, I believe, for the components and coaxials. It's just the comp Qs, the ones are just not available yet. And I'm sure with the Q class amps they used to have, I'm sure that might be coming back around the same time as the comp Qs and L7 Qs. I would think maybe, or at least around the same time frame. But he's like, yeah, sure. Sure. Wade, so between mechanical Q and electrical Q, which parameters has more direct impact on performance of an IB setup, or is it equal? I mean, I'm going to guess, I'm going to say mechanical, just because that's the main thing you're going to run into, and electrical is just going to help, deliver the power, just however that operates.
Like with anything, a speaker's got to be balanced. We talked about it when we were going over the anatomy of a speaker. You can put too much magnet on a speaker and dampen it too much where you reduce output.
Yeah.
So obviously, mechanical Q is reduced if you do infinite baffle, but it's all going to play a part. I mean, it's got to work together as a balanced system. So, poorly engineered product is never going to perform the way it should.
Very true. And that's the thing with everything. It's like, oh, well, what's the best? And there is no best or one factor that's going to qualify for what it's great for. It's everything together. And that's the cool thing about TS specs and Theo that, created those and just made that a thing. And I know it's a little bit different when a lot of power applied, and today's subwoofers just thousands of watts, throw it right out the window, but it still can give you an idea how things work. What's Kicker's goals for the next 5 years? That's a pretty broad statement.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think they've changed much over the last few years to, continue to make, some of the, the most affordable, most durable and best sounding equipment we can to, keep our users happy. I've said this before that, there are a lot of companies out there. I mean, if I could have any amplifier in the world, I'd love that Audison Thesis amplifier, but it's $14,000. That's just not, our customer. We spend all of our energy to make a product like that. We're not going to be very effective or very efficient. So I always tell people, we're the asses that rock the masses. We give you an extremely good product, a good value. It's dependable. It's not going to break unless you guys actually break it.
And, you guys do have a lot of, I hate saying it because I don't want to be like, oh yeah, just abuse the equipment, but you guys make dummy proof stuff. And, it's great because I'm a big dummy too, man. Just trying different things or not always paying attention. You know, that's always been
It's
my
not
problem.
rocket science, but it's like anything else. Some people are experts in other things, and it's always nice to someone that's an expert in the field they're in. We try to make the amplifiers like we talked about. No need for the line output converters. Because we do not use the single-ended input on the amplifiers. We have high voltage, so you can run speaker level right from any source right into the amplifier without adapters, without putting band-aids in there, other gear that's going to clutter the sound. And the other thing, with the line output converters is you've got more connections, more chance to miswire something, get it out of polarity, or it's just, we want to make it easy. I call it the KISS theory. Keep it simple, stupid.
Keep it simple, stupid. And that's the coolest thing about them, and I almost forget sometimes. Like, I try doing that on an older Q class, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, this doesn't take high level like all the new stuff does, and it's great. It's that Fit Plus technology or something like that. I forget the name.
We got Fit Plus and Fit 2. I mean, there's 3 different versions of it.
I'm not feeling very fit anymore.
You think it's the magic bullet, and it's going to do everything. Well, then, of course, the automakers change something. You've got to come out with another version.
Wow. And it makes sense, though. You got to keep up with it. And I remember, what was it before back? Like, I know this is supposed to be about sound quality, but it's funny how, like, cars just didn't really have radios in them, and then people started putting radios in them. And now it's like, well, we can't even put a radio in there because it controls everything. And we're slowly trying, like, I see head units now that literally can copy, word for word, your entire HUD display that's in your head unit. So you could replace that if you want to, but you're talking some cheese.
You're doing a good job. Yeah, you got Linkswell that does a really good job of that. I've got that in 2 of my vehicles, and it's nice to have a head unit you can put in to get the sound quality and not sacrifice some of the control that you had.
Right. And that's the key, because you don't want to lose your climate control, especially with this stuff, because it's all in your radio. I've never understood that. Sound
there's
Doctor,
a lot of safety functions in the radios as well too that you really can't get rid of.
I know, even with my older Cobalt, but the airbag still ran through the radio harness somehow, and I needed something to bypass that. It's like, what are you talking about? Or OnStar, that too, and that was a trick to go pass and what have you. But this is a good question, because I know you brought it up about the grounds and the noise with not to have a ground on your common chassis where everything else is grounded, especially like low level like signal, because that's the part that's getting amplified, like how you were mentioning. Now, can you just add a ground wire front to back and eliminate the chassis ground?
Yes and no.
Yes and no. Okay, that's the show, folks.
Yep, there you go. That's it. Good night. No, the reason I say that is because you have to know what type of ground it is first. What type of noise? Is it the fact you have a dissimilar ground point? And that's where adding more ground wire is going to help. But if it's the antenna effect for ground noise, you're not going to get rid of that by adding ground wire. And if it's coming in, from your source, I mean, if your radio has ground noise coming out of it, it doesn't matter what you do to the amplifier, what type of noise reducers you put on it, it's not going to get rid of it. That's why engine noise was so challenging. Literally, I've been paid to fix engine noise twice in my life. If it's your install, if you're an installer and you put a system in that's got engine noise, this industry has generally accepted the fact that that's your problem. You're going to have to figure it out on your dime, and the store owner's going to throw parts at it. Unfortunately, that's just the way this industry has evolved. But a lot of times it can be the quality of the gear. I mean, there's sometimes you just can't get rid of it if the gear's not laid out to reduce noise. And if you look at the Warhorse amplifier, the 3600.1, it does have 2 power and 2 ground wires. But if you notice, if you look at them, they're not 2 power on one side and 2 ground on the other. It's ground and power. So it's balanced for the positive and negative rails. And that helps reduce noise and reduces pops. So it comes really down, it starts with the layout of the circuit board and the design of the product. And if that's not done right, you'll never get rid of the noise. So, can you just add more ground? It's possible. That's an easy way to check. And one way to check is to just take a set of jumper cables, connect them from your ground to your amplifier back up to your battery. or just,
and see if that helps eliminate that noise that you're having, and that'll tell you if you need more ground. If it's that, but like how you mentioned earlier, you can test by disconnecting the RCAs and such, diagnosing where that noise is coming from. If it's antenna or that potential difference from the alternator, ground loop noise, all that fun stuff. That's crazy, because I know even Cookie Monster used to have a little bit of whine to it, and then I did a dedicated ground wire, it's gone. So it might have been that. And Eclipses, Japan, who knows how they welded that thing, and I don't know. But it fixed it.
It's not the ground wire of the amplifier, it could be the ground wire of the head unit.
Wow,
So
and
easy way to
that's
test
crazy.
that is to run an 8-gauge ground wire from your amplifier ground up to the case of your radio.
Wow. So that's another thing that meant, that almost makes more sense, because that's where maybe that potential difference could also be from, is that radio ground, like you're saying. So if you would make the grounds all share the similar ground point, you could almost get rid of that noise that way.
And that's why they say, make sure everything's grounded to the same point. So you've got really good, chance of not having noise. So I'm going to tell you a little story about this. Is, before Kicker days, I was working for Kenwood, and I went into a dealer, and I was working with another vendor, which the vendor was Extant at the time, which was a really cool product.
They made those like square looking pentagon like subwoofers. That's what I remember them as.
Yeah, the hexagon, and that was later in life. When I was first working, they were just doing amplifiers. They had the, polished stainless steel amp shrouds. But we went into a dealer and we asked him, because he had the product line for about a month or two. He said, hey, what do you think of the product? And the store owner looked at me and said, I love this product, it's got a place in my store, but every single one I put in has engine noise. I'm like, what? And I had a factory guy with me. I mean, I had my equivalent, when I was the Kenwood guy, but he was for a different company. He was working for Extant. And I looked at Tom and I said, do you have a minute? Can we help this guy out? See if we can figure it out? Yeah, sure. Let's go see. So they take us, and back, and they said, we have the vehicle here. We got a vehicle here that's got noise. So let's go look at it. Let's go see what we have.
Let's go look at it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we go back and look at it, and, yes, it's got noise. And finally the installer, he was doing something else, walks up. I looked at him and said, so I understand every single install you've ever done with these amplifiers has had engine noise. And he had this weird look on his face. And he's like, yeah, I suppose that's true. Like, really? How many have you done? That one.
Oh.
But every single one he did had engine noise. Now, here's the thing. Those amplifiers had built-in crossovers, like almost every amplifier does anymore. They had an outboard 3-way active crossover along with that product. So we eliminated the outboard crossover. It took care of, maybe 50-75% of the noise just by eliminating that, because you've got RCA cables that can pick up noise. You had, grounds that, might not have been the same potential. So that took care of most of it. So we're kind of trying to narrow it down. So we're working with the head unit end of it. I pulled the head unit out of the dash. I think this was a Toyota. I don't remember for sure, and I noticed when I pulled the radio out, it was a non-stock antenna wire plugged into the back of the radio. I'm like, oh, that's odd. And I kind of looked in the dash and there's the stock antenna plug. They weren't using it. So I asked the installer, why aren't you using the factory antenna? It was a power antenna, and the mast snapped off. The guy didn't want to spend the money to get a new mast, so they got an aftermarket antenna and plugged it into the radio and just tucked it under the dash. When we unplugged that aftermarket antenna, which wasn't mounted properly or grounded, and plugged in the stock antenna, all the noise was gone.
Wow. So that almost like completed that ground noise.
It was two different combinations. It was a combination that, improper antenna ground, and by adding another piece of electronic equipment in the back,
making that difference.
Cables, more wires, just those two combinations. So it's back to that keep it simple, stupid theory. The less you have to put in there, the better it's going to be. And that goes for sound quality with speakers too. I mean, ideally, for a good sounding vehicle, you typically need 3 speakers, a left, a right, and a subwoofer. And, if you could get a left and right that could do 20 to 20K, you wouldn't need the subwoofer. So
No, no, right. And that's what I kind of have here too, is like ranges of the speakers, their positions, their angles, and their ability of their range, like you were just saying. But right, with like sound quality is that left and the right, and we have the subwoofers because they're just they're just more moving mass. They're more, yeah, they like to make bass. That's their name of the game, and it's just easier with more cone area. And with any kind of normal driver, not pro audio or like home audio, you know, it's just they're designed a little bit different, and you know, power limitations aren't really much of a factor in a car as they are in a house, I feel like, and that's why you see that where there is that difference, or just space limitations too. I don't know. Either way, that's cool how you brought up with that antenna. I know I always do like installs, and I see like that blue solid wire. I'm like, who has a powered remote antenna anymore? You know, I just don't see it. I don't see it.
Yeah, and that's because they get broken off. In fact, what you're going to see, and this is completely off the subject, but newer cars, you're going to start seeing things disappear like side view mirrors because they have drag. So they
fuel efficiency. Oh yeah, God forbid.
I mean, glass has weight. The automakers are trying to make the car as light as possible and as less drag as possible. So you're going to start seeing cameras and screens replace. In fact, you see that on some cars already, not just backup cameras, but they're starting to replace the mirrors with, you know, cameras.
That almost makes sense. And then you can have that like on the dash. You can see your right side. You can see your front. You wouldn't have any blind spots. Let me tell you, I don't like blind spots. They're the worst. And what do those mirrors do anyway? Nothing but kill my gas mileage.
We did that on a Bronco that we did for Royal Garage, which is the ride of your life with Courtney Hansen. We took a 68 Bronco and we put cameras on the roll bar and then did 2 monitors in the dash. So that was your side view mirrors were to actually, you know, one on each side of the radio.
That's smart.
Cool. It's for fun.
Yeah, it works, especially for something like that. I want to say thank you, Matt, again for the super chat. You're awesome. Appreciate you. And you just got to look at it. Yeah, too. I feel like, you know, we've already been in this an hour, and there's just so much to just sound and sound quality. And I mean, the foundation of the system is what we're talking about. Is almost, you know, if you do have a problem, say you put everything together, you kind of know how to track it down. I mean, you could just look at this video, and John explained, you know, checking the sources or just, you know, troubleshooting things if you're getting sound and kind of how to do it with just the noise before we even start. Now, we started to talk about crossovers. Well, not even get there, but just range of speakers and, you know, things along those lines. How about with just, you know, crossovers in general? You know, I always kind of look at it where I don't want one speaker totally overlapping the other one or not overlapping enough and there's a null in my sound, but also making it sound clear. Because there's always that easy way, like, yes, it's playing it all, but it gets that muddy sound, and I feel like that has a little bit with phase and not even time alignment, but just phase and like coupling of that wavelength. It's really a deep subject.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, we could spend, you know, a day just talking about crossovers, and it's interesting because some companies, you know, some people prefer an overlap. Some people do not want an overlap. In fact, when I was dealing with ADS, when they were doing, you know, really high-end car audio, their crossovers, if I remember, I think there were 80 hertz low pass for the woofer and 170 hertz high pass for the mids.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a huge gap in there. And it just, with the transfer function of the vehicle, the way the vehicle naturally, it worked. I mean, they sounded great. But it also depends on the crossover slope. It just depends on the speakers. To give you an example, our KSS components, there's a box with their two-way component system, so it's a crossover, but the mid-range basically passes through the crossover box. So the mid-range uses its own natural roll-off without any additional electronics to control the frequency range. So they pretty much drop off like a rock at about 5K. So why run them through more capacitors and, you know, coils or resistors when the speaker's doing it naturally by itself? So the crossover really is just controlling the tweeter at that point. Wow.
And that's crazy. So just physical limitations are limiting it from being able to play that low, and it doesn't need to anyway. Just doesn't,
same
doesn't
thing with
need
like a woofer. If you try to play a subwoofer at too high of frequency, they get really hollow and muddy sounding.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I mean, a subwoofer is not designed to produce voices, and it depends on if it's a 6 dB per octave slope. I mean, you're going to have a lot more of that than you do with a 12 or a 24. So the steeper the slope, the more the vocals you can pull out of that woofer, which does something else. Going back to the whole sound quality thing, if you hear voices coming from your subwoofer and your subwoofer's behind you, that pulls your stage to the back. So ideally, you don't want to have any audible frequencies that are, like positionable coming from the subwoofer. So that's why you really want to cross your subwoofer, as low as possible and let the speakers up front play as low as they can play safely to bring all that bass up front and to help the localization remain up front and not be pulled to the rear.
And I've always seen that too with like, you see a guy, he's got a system, it's like his first or second one, and you just hear the vocals coming through the subwoofer and you just see that thing jumping. It's like two combinations of things. One, the crossovers just aren't set, so it's not playing those vocals. And two, the gain's just cranked way too high, and it's very sensitive. That's all you're doing is just changing the sensitivity of that amplifier. You're not really making it louder, it's just more sensitive for whatever signal it's getting.
It's all about proper tuning.
Yes.
And there's no right or wrong. I mean, if you like the sound of the voices coming out of the woofer, and I've been in that mode too, where I had a customer that it was a dealer in Florida, and he was wanting help designing a system for a customer. And we designed, what we thought was an absolutely incredible sounding system in the vehicle. And the customer absolutely hated it. I mean, and come to find out, this is all about qualifying. This is why you got to ask, what are you going to use your system for? What do you listen to? How loud? Because all this guy wanted to do was to hear it while he was out in the fields working. He didn't care what it sounded like as long as he could hear it. So we spent all this time to design this absolutely incredible sounding system, and the dealer spent hours and hours tuning this vehicle. And literally what made this guy the happiest was running his 15-inch subwoofers full range.
Ooh, ouch.
Didn't sound good, but he could hear it.
Yeah, I guess in every situation there's a valid reason, but there's
always that extreme end. I usually
that's the opinion. Yeah, that's the opinion right there with sound quality. Because I know, like you're saying, he wanted the gravy. He wanted that, not distortion, but just that heavier sound. And I feel like we get kind of just used to whatever sound signature we like, and we want every system to kind of sound like that in a way. You're always looking for that sound. I know whenever I first ran the Street Series, I was like, this is a different sound than the KS 6x9. It's louder, but it's a different sound, and I kind of dial it in after like a year and a half of having them, and I got them to sound even better of what I was, kind of aiming for.
Yeah,
we're right.
It's a different animal. It's a learning curve. To get the sound.
Yep. And I know I tune a lot of just my mids and highs by ear, and with tuning your sound quality build, it takes more than that whenever you're trying to do phase and time alignment and noise positioning, or just like when you're sitting there in an SQ build, you can hear the cup chatter to your left 10 feet in front of you. That's when you know that it's an SQ kind of build. Like Cookie Monster, sorry, it ain't doing that. It's right in your face. And that's all that's for. But right now, how do you do that the right way, John? Tuning that with time alignment, phase, and how do you get that like depth of field with sound quality?
Well, and that's one of the things I've been, wanting to bring out, and I'm glad you brought it up too, is there's one real big fundamental problem with car audio in general when it comes to sound quality, and that's you're not sitting in the middle of the vehicle. So you're sitting closer to one speaker than you are the other. Therefore, the left and right are going to sound different because you're on a different axis to the speaker. So that changes the sound, and the speaker that you're closest to is louder. But more importantly, in a vehicle, you can get depth, you can get height, but width is restricted to how far apart the speakers are. So one of the problems, one of the main, I shouldn't say discrepancies I have with, IASC and tuning, but it's just part of, being in a car, is they tell you, you want the center image right in the middle of the vehicle. I mean, dead center stage, which would be great if you're sitting in the middle of the vehicle. But if you go to see your favorite performer, you know, in concert, and you're the first one in the concert hall, you're not going to intentionally set, you know, 2/3 of the way to the left. You're going to set in the middle.
Yeah, if you have your choice.
Car. So ideally, you would want to tune it where the image was right in front of the steering wheel. The problem is that the left side loses the width because of, you know, the speaker's a lot closer to you. You can't make it go beyond, you know, to tune the sound beyond where the speaker is. So that's why it's very difficult. That's why, you know, I kind of shoot for happy medium, you know, somewhere between the steering wheel and the rear view mirror, somewhere in there. So you're still getting good stereo width, but you're still getting, you know, pretty decent image.
I get what you're saying, because if you go way too far over to the center, like you're saying with that width, is it the depth or just the width? Because like now you're talking like about, I'm like, well, what are you talking about? But I get it with stereo left and right and center image. But right, you're not sitting in the center, so you're not going to get that true center without some kind of setback. You know, there's got to be something there.
Yeah, and if you guys want to experiment with this with, you know, home speakers, just get a pair of home speakers and set one directly in front of you and set the other one, you know, off to the right, and try to make it sound like you have a left image, or left, you know, sound, left stage. And you can't get that. I mean, it's just, you're going to hear it all coming from directly in front of you. You can't get it to push to the left beyond where the speaker is. So it's, you know, that's a lot of times, you know, to experiment with just, you know, setting up home gear and listening to it and speaker placement. I mean, you can learn a lot, and it is all, you know, experimental. Every vehicle is going to change the sound in its own way, and that's called the transfer function of the vehicle.
Yep. I like that transfer function, though. It helps with dBs, you know, but for SQ, it's not really, you know, the greatest thing. Reflections, refractions, whatever you want to call them.
You know, you get something called cone filtering that happens in vehicles, you know, due to the different distances you are away from the speakers. And, you know, that stuff, you know, gets really, really, really difficult. But, you know, and, you know, we used to have this RTA thing where, you know, there was a perfect score of 40, which meant, you know, it's absolutely flat from 20 to 20K with less than 1 dB of variance. And if anyone has ever heard one of those vehicles, I've never heard anyone tell me that this is the way I want to listen to my music.
No,
it was so sterile and so literally flat. I mean, there was no excitement, and that's what music is. It's excitement. So
did you say gravy?
I don't recommend anyone tuning their vehicle flat.
No. Now, what is that called? That where how your ear listens? There's like a curve. Something's
curve.
Fletcher-Munson curve. Now, what if you tune it to almost the opposite of that, because your ear, you don't want it to be super loud where your ear sensitive at. I feel like that's almost where you kind of want to guide it, is like that curve, some which way, some form.
And you can, but you know, it comes down to what sound people like. You know, when I first started selling audio, you know, there's a brand of 6x9 that was really, really popular that had about a 6 dB spike at 1K, which to us is really annoying. You know, it's that tone when the TV goes off the air, that doo, you know, it was louder at that frequency, which was really annoying. But where these speakers were built in that country, that is what they liked. I mean, you looked at most of their equalizers where we do a smiley face, they were doing a frown. They were taking the high frequencies and the bass out and boosting the mid-range.
No highs, no lows, huh?
Yeah.
Gotta be, wait, what was it?
No, we won't go there.
No.
I know where you're going, but anyway.
Yeah, but no, that's crazy.
It all depends, and it's weird because we've actually talked about this at the factory. You know, there's other countries that, you know, we've talked about putting acoustic engineers in those countries to design our speakers the way they like them over there. Because we've been told by some of these other countries that, you know, hey, you know, your speakers aren't as popular because they like this sound, you know, versus what you're doing. So it is all personal choice. There is no right or wrong. Is it worth it to the company to put an engineer in another country and design a whole new product just for that country or that, you know, demographic? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Well, look what we did with the ST series. I mean, that's a different demographic. We built it for that, but, you know.
And thank you guys for that.
It's the grease, but the really greasy wheel gets replaced.
Yes. And that's the first time you guys had anything I guess not even Street Series, but just like L7X, Solo X, just even from like the original Solo X stuff. You guys didn't have components or anything for mids and highs for that. Now you got it for the L7X, which is awesome.
Trying to make everything more balanced. Now, I joke about this. You know, there used to be something called the 200 hertz rule, which I'm sure you've probably never heard of, but that's, you know, talking about, you know, a long time ago, if you were a company that sold a lot of woofers, you didn't sell a lot of components. If you sold a lot of components, you didn't sell a lot of woofers. And just to throw some brands out there as an example, they're all really good brands and make really good gear. But I mean, for the longest time, you didn't see, you know, Focal, you didn't see Focal woofers, but they made unbelievable mids and tweeters. Same thing with ScanSpeak and Dyna Audio. You didn't see a lot of their woofers, but you saw a lot of their mids and tweeters. Same thing with MB Court, a lot of mids and tweeters, but not woofers. And then you look at, you know, Kicker, Rockford, you know, Orion, Crunch, you know, sold a lot of woofers, but not a lot of mids and tweeters and coax.
That's crazy. So that's at 200 roll, above 200 hertz or below.
Yeah. So
I know you guys like below 200 hertz for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
We like it all. So I think we've done a really good job of bridging that gap. I mean, we have the #1 selling coax in the world, the CSC 654. And of course, obviously, you know, the #1 woofers in the world. So we've done a really good job of bridging that gap, but it didn't happen by accident. It was years and years of, you know, development and listening to consumers and, you know, sourcing out materials and just putting it all together to make, you know, the best products we can.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, like even with like boom boxes or earbuds, I can tell even down to the earbuds, you guys have a signature sound, a Steve signature sound. And it's like, wow, you know, it does, at least with like the TW1s that you sent me over. And I really love those things. And you can tell they got like that kicker EQ to them. I put in my other cheapos and it's like, this is just not as rich sounding. There's a little bit more boom. It's like, man, my voice does sound like it's got a lot of bass, but I guess it does, you know, it plays almost below 40, but that's not the point of this. You guys got that curve, and you also do that too, not just with the DSP or however you do it when you're making these boom boxes and stuff and headphones. It's with the physical diaphragm of the speaker, you know, and just that's nuts. It really is.
You know, you look at some of the headphones out there that got really popular, you know, and I won't say names, but they rhyme with your feet. But, you know, they actually had a whole circuit that boosted the bass. So, you know, you had to have batteries, you know, just for music. But, you know, Steve's got a signature EQ curve. We call it the Kick EQ that, you know, he shoots for. And, you know, he's doing a real good job in teaching Aaron Surratt, which, you know, Aaron's been working with Steve for years side by side. And Steve's been basically teaching him, you know, how he likes sounds and the kicker sounds. So, you know, the legend will continue regardless.
That's awesome. I know, because it's like Aaron is that guy with the designing and making stuff. And
Aaron's the reason we have the passives back, to be honest.
Wow. And I love that too, because I love the amphitheaters. I love that passive radiator advantage that you get of having better low end extension in this almost pretty much similar size box as a sealed box.
Yep.
But you know, yeah, it's like you can have your cake and eat some of it too. You know, it's not you know, yeah. I love them. I've always wanted to do a build. I even thought about it, you know, back in the passive with a Solo X18 and using one of the cones as a passive radiator, put some weights behind it. You know, I don't know. It probably would sound really good, but obviously it's not going to be a 150 build, but it very well could be, but I don't know. Either way. Yes. All right. We're at about an hour and 15 minute mark. I don't want to keep these guys forever, but there was a few questions here. Thank you again, Matthew. Appreciate you for the $5 super chat. And this guy, actually, I think it was this week with the Kicker Club build of the week, representing Oklahoma with the 2 Kicker Comp Qs. And John, I want to say thank you for shouting out Kicker Club every other Tuesday on the Unmasked show. It's awesome, man.
Hell of a job with this.
Thanks. You know, I take pride in it.
54,000 plus now.
55,000. One up another.
I'm slipping. I'm behind the times.
Slacking. That's okay. As long as you're not Marty McFly, you won't be too much of a slacker. But no, I
Hello,
appreciate you
McFly.
for the shout outs. Yes. And Norman, thank you for becoming a green team member. Appreciate you. That's awesome. And Uncle Bobby B, he's yelling at me because every show
Uncle Bobby B, baby. Uncle Bobby B.
we can't forget about Bobby. Just you just can't.
Nope.
All right. Let's wrap this up a little bit here. All right. So we already went over a lot.
You know, there's so many things we haven't touched on, like sound
know.
dampening, speaker placement.
It's on there.
Types of drivers.
Sound dampening. Yep.
I mean, we got a couple more shows we can squeeze out of this, you know.
Yes. Yes. We don't have to fit it all in one night. We definitely
No, we
don't.
can't.
And because sound quality, like you said in the very beginning, is objective, but it's also deep with lots of caverns and tunnels to go through.
Oh, yeah.
And to learn all that stuff, because it's just the opposite of what a lot of guys do when they first get into car audio. Is just like with the people that are tuned in here, 9 chances out of 10 they probably got at least 2 12s in the back of their car, you know. And maybe an SQ guy doesn't always have 2 12s. Like I see them, they might have like 3 10s or, you know, or an 18, but it's infinite baffle, and they just got literal just holes in their car just so that there is no sealed, and it's just totally infinite baffle for everything. And it's just it's crazy how serious it can get.
Well, you remember Gary Biggs won world champion Iask and USAC with the first LLwA 18s in his Regal.
That's crazy. And I think it's funny because
I mean, they
everyone's,
weren't turned up
it's just
very
an
loud, but they
SPL
were
driver.
they were in there.
They work in sealed boxes too. I've always wanted to try it. I never did. But I guess infinite baffle would work pretty good too.
I did
guess it
infinite
would.
baffle on the original LLwA 12s in our little SRT4, our little yellow Dodge Neon.
Yeah. Now, how did that sound? Was it the
great.
dual ones, dual twos? Because I know those dual ones, or I think it's dual 1 or dual 2. They got a pretty high FS, but I know it's not just about resonant frequency. But I did notice
I don't
that.
even remember, to be honest. I mean, that was 20 years ago.
That's it. Jeez. Oh yeah. I got to throw them up here because you sent them to me. Speaking of 20 years ago, let's pull these up here. Let's see. We'll pull this up right
About all this.
here. Oh, take a look at it. Now, what is this first image you sent me here? What is this?
This is interesting. This is a cab of a 97 Ford F-150 pickup that was built in 1995. It was one of Ford's prototypes for the new body style. They gave it to us, and originally when Kicker started selling the original Kicker boxes, Steve couldn't afford an entire demo vehicle. I mean, he was just doing this on his own. So he went to the junkyard and bought the cab of a truck and towed that cab around as a showroom. So this vehicle was kind of homage to that, but yet it had all 3 different types of audio systems of the time. Now you see a ton of ZR amplifiers in there. In fact, those are ZR amps with the clear plastic bottoms that lit up.
Oh, here.
That was motorized. I mean, that was all for fun.
Yeah.
But this truck basically epitomized the 3 different types of installs, which as we go through the pictures, I didn't send them to you in any particular order. So we'll just see what the next picture has. And there you go. So this has the ZR120 heat sinks that we actually machined and put monitors in there. But that system that you're looking at, even though you can't really see a lot, was really a sound quality system for the time. So that dash is completely acoustically transparent. So there are no reflections coming off the dash. There are 2 4s and a soft dome tweeter mounted in the kick panel area behind the dash. They're mounted up high.
Oh,
and then
here. Wow.
Yep, they're actually in there. So and then in the where the firewall is, there's 2 10-inch XPL cast basket 10-inch subwoofers.
That's awesome.
Enclosure. So that was the all-out sound quality system, and you see a hint of a speaker magnet there in the console. That was
what's that?
That is a Soliberic 15-inch woofer, and there were 3 of them in the floor that fired up through that vent right under the dash, so almost like a band pass, but it wasn't tuned specifically for that. It was just a large vent. The vent is actually a lot larger than what you see. The dash is covering up at least half of it.
That's crazy.
So that also went along. If you find the picture that's got the doors, there you go. So the 3 15-inch woofers played with the 3 10s, the 3 5 1/4s, and the 3 tweeters. which is kind of like we have today with the SPL market. Is as much as you can put in there, and physically
We'll make it fit.
and make work. So that was pretty much balls to the walls. It's like there's no limits. Whatever you can put in there, do it.
Yeah.
And then the third system, which was the very first, is the original kicker box behind the seat. And this is an interesting picture. If you can make that a little bit larger, that last
Is
one.
this one or the batteries?
The batteries. This is one of my favorite trivia questions on
Ooh.
this vehicle. What is missing from this picture?
I looked at it. I just saw all them batteries. I'm like, that's a good wiring job. It looks beautiful. I didn't even know
you're
what's
on the
missing.
right track. What's missing?
Oh my goodness, the posts.
There's no grounds.
What?
There's 8 batteries in there, and there's no ground wires linking them together.
So do they not work then, or I don't know.
They work just fine. The battery box was 1/4-inch steel plate welded together, and we drilled holes where the side post ground was and bolted the batteries into that battery box through the ground post, so it served both as a mounting point and as a ground.
That's
And then
awesome. So on the bottom side posts.
Yeah, and then the
That's
battery
awesome.
box itself was welded to the frame of the truck.
Damn. So in an accident, that's not going anywhere. That's
No, not at
together.
all. Now the funny thing is, when I was sitting in there wiring all the battery posts, all the positives, I'm sitting on the case of those amplifiers, which are machined, and
It's like a
those
seat.
amplifiers, I was passing 12 volts, and can't tell you how many amps, from my fingers through my butt, sitting on that vehicle. When I got sweaty working, I was like, why is my ass burning? It's because every time I touched a battery terminal, I was passing DC through me.
That's funny. My buddy JR, he was working on his car the other day, and he was sweating up a storm, and he was leaning over, and he's like, man, I keep juicing myself. And it's just because he was leaning on one of his amps, the ground casing, or, the casing. It was just grounded. It
One
was
of the
funny.
first things that I learned about Class D amplifiers is the fact they're always producing full power all the time.
Yeah.
So the positive rail and the negative rail are pulsed at the same speed, at the same rate, and the same pulse width, so they cancel out. Well, I had I think it was a DX700 in one of my cars, and one of the speaker wires had come loose. So I'm laying in the trunk of the car, and it's 105 degrees in Oklahoma, and I've got this metal Allen wrench in the speaker terminal of the amplifier, and I'm trying to reach up to tighten this. I got tired, so I went to lay my head down, and I touched my ear to the trunk latch. So basically sent full power from the amplifier through my hand, through my ear, and put a burn mark in my ear.
Wow, that's crazy. And
the amplifier
your ear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you ever want to know what the voltage rail is on a Class D amplifier, just measure from chassis ground to the positive or the negative with the AC volt setting, and you'll see how many volts the voltage rails are.
I know with the Warhorse unloaded, I was getting like 108 or something like that volts. I was like,
that's all them volts.
yes, intense. But regardless, that's a lot of power, and then your body and how much resistance you got, what kind of shoes you got.
Yeah, and you've got so much resistance, and 12 volts is not going to do a lot of damage. It's when you start getting into neon transformers, and I've had a few of those light me up before. Sockets or
transformers. That's crazy. I mean, anything with high current can be an issue, or high voltage. It just, then the current depends what you're doing.
1/4 of an amp through your heart will kill you.
Jeez. And that's the scary thing that, with the high voltage world is starting to bring with just, how electric vehicles are turning into a thing, and I know you guys have showcased a few with low voltage with their inverters, and I've seen people tap into that high voltage, but that's never something to mess with, just because that higher potential is just, a higher potential of juicing you with the same stuff.
That's
with
why
the same rubber shoes on.
Yep, the original Warhorse amplifier had 8-gauge Anderson connectors for the speakers, because it was enough voltage and current to kill you if you grabbed onto it.
Wow, so that's why they didn't do that just so it looked cool. That's what I thought.
That was the
for.
safety feature. I had to do that to keep people from electrocuting themselves. That was a ton of power. I mean, you're talking 10,000 watts.
I was going to say that thing does even more. It's like 130, 140
Yeah, I
volts
can't
or
remember
something.
exactly, but it was enough.
You could power your house with it. It could be just an inverter, huh? Play 60 hertz, you know, your 50 hertz, you're good
There
to
you
go.
go.
You know, wherever you live. Hey,
Yep.
I got one over here. I could do that.
As long as you
know?
got a bank of car batteries to keep it going for a while.
Yeah. I can't. That's the thing, man. That's the thing. I am excited with all the war horses coming out and people getting them in their hands. The old stuff was awesome, but you know, 15 years of technology, I'm happy with the two that I have. And, you know, if you wired them down, you could get, if not more power out of those than that old war horse. Is it going to be as efficient? I'd say pretty close, but with your technology you guys had on that old war horse, a little bit different.
About 98% efficient.
That's insane.
It was basically a modulated power supply. I mean, it didn't have an output section. I mean, it literally was a modulated power supply. That's how it worked, and it was a push-pull.
That's crazy. So it just there was no output section, so there's no efficiency loss in that regard.
Yep. Less components, less loss.
Wow.
We never got
that makes
the
sense.
fans to turn on, ever, in one of those.
You know, I haven't either, and I have a lot of fur covering mine whenever I was running it. I never heard them turn on. And I had it at 2 ohms, but I don't know if a Solo X18 by itself can handle all 10,000 watts forever.
I don't know if you stuck your head in, you know, any of the vehicles, you know, like Kyle's or Steve's or Drew's vehicles, that those thermal indicators never even got orange, you know, after all the abuse those things took.
Oh, with like the new ones? I know, same. Never got orange. Never got orange.
Potential. They're and they've got 4 fans built into them. They're very over-engineered. There's an entire circuit that drives the fans. Depending on the impedance and how hard you're running it, it controls the speed. So, I mean, there's a lot of engineering amplifier. And, you know, people always say, you can buy this amplifier that does this much power for less money. Well, it doesn't have the technology or the R&D in it, you know, the stability that these things do. You know, I'm defending that amp, but rightfully so. I mean, it is really
and people, people
art.
are going to say with the high price tag, but like you said, and in my experience with it as well,
there's value built in. It's not just fluff.
Exactly. Sorry, while you're talking, I'm taking care of these winners here. If you see any,
you know, ran the gauntlet of time, but you know, there's so many other topics. We'll probably have to plan on doing this again, Andy.
You know, John, as long as you're willing to come on,
hear more. I mean, that's the key. If your listeners and viewers want more, just let Andy know, and we'll come back and we'll do some more. But
absolutely. Now these guys do a pretty good job. They're like, hey, we need this guy on, or we need to talk about this, and you know, just in general, like my buddy John Ickes, got a lot of Johns here. He was asking me, you know, about like just like noise in the system, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to dig into it myself, but I kind of want to talk about this, and I'm going to bring John on because he is like, I see John stereos, like at least I've only heard the Mustang, but I see your other work here, and it just screams just sound quality, and like you wouldn't be able to know, obviously you work a kicker, but you know how to track down different things and get rid of those noises if they persist or they're just there. And I feel like we did cover a lot with that, and that is the foundation with sound quality. Yep, good way to start. Absolutely. Sorry, I'm just trying to get this Rig 3000 going. It's just a little hesitant here and there, you know. Oh, let me guess. Jeremy doesn't let you show his. He doesn't show you the Rig 3000. He doesn't show you that. Guess you don't get to see that, huh? I'll have to show you after the show here. It's pretty cool. I appreciate all you guys tuning in, hanging out with me and John.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, literally.
We can't do this without you. I say it all the time, but it's true. If you guys didn't tune in and didn't care, I mean, we wouldn't be doing this. So
no. And
Andy and I just be talking together without you guys, I guess.
Hey, that's not a bad thing either. But right, it's so cool to be able to talk to an audience that also understands what we do and can connect. You know, it's truly awesome to be able to do this kind of stuff. And you guys showing the support, liking, sharing. if you haven't already, go check out Kicker and tune into the Unmasked show too, man. These guys have been doing it longer than me with the live shows, and they put a stellar performance. And we got the man of the hour with us tonight, Mr. John Myers.
And if you guys do have more questions, I mean, you can always send them to support@kicker.com. We got some great guys up there that answer them. And if they have any questions at all, they've got all the engineers right in the building with them, so you will get the right answer. It may not be what you want to hear, but they will tell you exactly what you need to know.
That's it. Yeah, I know your tech support is awesome. It truly is, because you can just pick up the phone and call. And I know you guys used to do it. I know that's how Bobby Gately learned how to build boxes and help with box design too, and just, you know, the ins and out with your Kicker product.
Yeah, Bobby's good people.
He truly is, man. He truly is. You know, it's just crazy to see that his story turned into his story because of a lot with you guys, you know, with your help, your intuition.
Did a lot of work with Lori Lori was working in the tech department when I started there. So she'd been doing it for many years before I got there. So.
Wow. You know, I feel like a lot of you guys that work at Kicker have been there since, you know, mid to late 90s. It's like, that's the mean of, the average of how long you guys have been there starting wise. That's crazy. Oh, let's see.
I think these people are probably ready for you to give away some stuff.
I know. I'm trying.
It's usually my job, but hey, it's your job this time.
You know, I could just read these off, but it's like, I got to do it how you guys do it. You know, you type it on the screen and throw it up, and it's a lot better that way. Plus, they know it's not 100% rigged. It's just like, you know, 99, 98%, you know.
It's rigged. Come on.
Yeah. Ooh, I know this guy. I mean, I know a lot of these guys, but some names just pop out, and it's like, oh, I'm glad he won. Because, you know, you never know. You never know with this. I don't think I've ever won whenever I used to actually enter into the contest. I've never won a Kicker Unmasked giveaway. Never once.
Neither have I.
It's rigged.
Yeah, exactly.
It's rigged.
And I do apologize if you guys were watching the show last Tuesday. I did forget to do all the fail picks, and we got kind of carried away. And I told the guys, I told them back there, say, there's something else you guys want to cover. And I knew there was something we were forgetting. So do apologize that we left you out on the fail picks and the install picks.
It's okay. You guys will be loaded this week. You'll be able to do that. Yeah. And I sent Ernie a few too. And there's some pretty good ones. I helped keep his stash just in case. Because you know what I mean? Like, people are getting better of making their installs a little bit better. It's a little bit harder to find the fails, but they are still out there.
Hey, if you got some good ones, send them in to us, please.
Yes. I mean, if you want to find where I find a lot of them, it's a great group, but Facebook, Bassheads on a Budget. If you're ever looking, John, I would look there.
Okay, that's a good. I haven't been to that one looking for those yet.
Yes. Good breeding ground. You know, and it's cool because, like, you know, you get to help those people, even though that they're probably posting out of like, oh man, my system is great, I love it, and it's like, well, let me help you out there, because that's not perfectly safe, or maybe there's a little bit better way of doing things, you know, just depending. Let's see. I put too many E's in there. Okay. Let's get the state, because I don't know where that is. Okay. I got one more to go, and we're done. Okay. Rigged. We got an Oklahoma guy here. What's up with that, John?
It's rigged.
Yeah, I feel like if it's anywhere near Oklahoma, there's like a magnet. It just pulls it right there.
I know no different.
Hey, I know you're an innocent bystander. I know it's all Jeremy and Ernie, you know.
No innocent bystanders. We're born, we're guilty.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah. All right, cool. Let me check the comments here. Now I got this all done. And okay, cool. I can see that. I can look at that there. I want to actually pull this over here so I can look at it just a little bit better. So I can see the chat while we're live, even though I barely look at it whenever I'm doing the giveaways, but I still, it's there. Let's do it. So, third place for tonight's show. Again, thank you guys for watching, hanging out till the end. Had like 50, 60 people here the entire show. You guys rock. Thank you, John, again. Third place, you get the EB400s, Kicker Swag Pack, T-shirt, unmask, koozies, the whole nine. And lanyards goes to Jose S. from San Jose, California. Congratulations. Thank you for watching, and appreciate you guys.
Yep. Thank you. Congratulations.
Yes. I think it's so awesome you guys do this stuff every week, you know, and it's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. The T-shirts are nice. The cups come in clutch. The koozies, I mean, come on, man. Who doesn't need a koozie? And whatever prize you get. And those EB400s are nice. I like those. Those are the weather resistant. I forget what water certification they are, but if you sweat a lot, you're good. Either way,
just don't go underwater.
Yeah, just don't do that. Yeah. They're great. Great for running. Stay on your ear. Second place. Now these ones aren't as waterproof and they don't stay in your ear quite as good as the EB400s, but the Tw1s, they're wireless earbuds, no wire, so there's the pro of that. Again, you're always trading off something, but I love the Tw1s and 2s. I don't have the Tw2s, but the Tw1s, they get the job done, and they remind me a lot of the older Apple EarPod kind of. Yeah, and that's what
are back in stock, by the way.
Awesome. You know, it's crazy because you guys went out of stock with them real fast. You know, as soon as you got them, gone.
3,000 of them gone before we knew it.
Hey, people love them earbuds, man. Why do you think I was knocking your door? I'm like, hey, John. I need... It's awesome. So second place with these earbuds, the Tw1s, goes to Dustin H. in Corydon, Indiana.
Nice.
Congratulations. All right, John, you can get this one. This is the first place Bullfrog 100. Drum roll, please.
It's going to be Larry K. from Newburgh, New York.
Larry, congratulations. Man, those Bullfrogs are awesome. I do miss the bigger ones, but I'm glad I got one. And hey, you know what? The Bullfrog 100s, they're more convenient. You can take them anywhere. You can put them in your pocket.
You can throw those in the lake.
Oh, I know. I put a video on YouTube real quick, short, and they were like just looking at it. Oh, you can throw this in water. Yeah, man, that's the coolest thing, you know. I wouldn't do it all the time, but you know, if you do it, you do it, you know. It'll survive.
Team posted a question, do I prefer ported over sealed for daily use? And I'm a large sealed box guy.
Ooh, same. You know, not too large because you might lose a little bit of, you know, the top end.
If you're too large, you're infinite baffle again, but still.
Yeah.
Larger than normal. Congratulations, everybody.
Congratulations. We got one more prize, John.
Ooh.
We got one more prize, and it's the 50% off discount code.
Oh, yeah.
Anything at kicker.com, which thank you guys for doing that on this show, which is just killer. Brings people in. I know. Thank you. You know, because, man, 50% off discount, anything Kicker. Same. Just shopping cart, boom, 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 twice as much. You know, you think you're saving half, you're just spending twice as much and saving half, you know. That's how that goes. 50% off discount code goes to Oklahoma.
Uh-oh.
Kyle G.
In Enid.
In Eden. I don't know if that's the right town. I know how Gleam works. It's just kind of wherever you were last kind of deal thing. But either way,
Enid's a nice town.
We know Kyle. Okay, that might be right then. That might be right. I knew whenever I went down to see you guys this year, you know, get married, that whole thing, he was going to stop down at Stillwater, but he got sick. So, congratulations, man.
Well, thanks again for, you know, having me on the show, and thanks guys for your questions. And I guess we'll just have to do this again.
Absolutely, John. I appreciate you so much, and we definitely will. We definitely will. You know, there's only so much you can talk about car audio with certain subjects, but there's a lot of just tunnels we can go down.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. That is truly the beauty of it. Kicker Friday, Andy. Oh, man, this StreamYard, whatever it's called, is failing me horribly with the comments, but I got it. Yes, long as the roof doesn't collapse, we will be live Friday and back at you again. Of course. Appreciate all you guys. Thank you for watching. Congratulations. Oh, Dubby, come on, Dubby. We love you, Dubby. Oh, I got a $5 super chat. I can't leave him hanging. This is from William.
Would you look at that? Oh my gosh, just look at it. Just look at it. You got to look at it this way, okay? You just got to look at it. That's all you can do anymore.
You know, he's right. That's all you can do is just look at it.
All
and
idiots can do.
yeah. Thank you,
cool.
William. Another great show as always. Thank you, John, for your time and expertise tonight. Thank you, Kicker, for all the praises every week. Thank you, William, for supporting. This guy is an OG too, man. He truly is. And thank you so much, William. Thank you. Appreciate you guys. Not going to let John hang here too long because he had a long day at work at Kicker. So I'm going to let him go. And we're going to end this show. I'll catch you at the caboose. This was Kicking It with Andy with John.
Take care, guys. Thanks.
Talking about SQ. And yeah, thank you, John. And thank you, guys. I'll catch you Friday. Stay living loud.
Okay. So we're kicking it with Andy, right? You know what that means. We living loud.
Yes, please be safe this 4th of July weekend. Don't cook any coils. Don't blow anything up other than fireworks or amplifiers. Don't do that. But it's kind of hard with Kicker. Either way, I appreciate you guys. Stay living loud. I love you.
Livin Loud with Andy.
Hey, so, this John guy, he's not taking my place, is he?
know is John's definitely not going to be taking your place, but John is definitely going to come on the show again in the future. He's awesome and a great friend of mine. And man, thank you, Baba. Thank you for Mr. Myers for giving your time to drop some knowledge on us. We look forward to the next Talk John Myers with Andy. Have a safe 4th of July. Thank you, Bubba. But you know, Cornut, he's coming in and stealing it. I love you guys. Stay living loud.